Shalom, all praises to Yakalba Page and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, Bashem Rakak. My name is Yakalba from Plaintables Campus, Philly. Putin gives us an update on why he went to war in the Ukraine. There's multiple reasons why. You have the NATO buildup, the biolabs. Russia believed that they were about to be under attack from the European powers in America. So let's listen to what Putin got to say. It's in Russian. It's on a Ishmaelite YouTube page, but they have the closed caption. All right. And I'll stop it at certain points.
Дни вы сражаетесь за наших людей на Донбассе, за безопасность нашей Родины, России. Россия всегда выступала за создание системы равной и неделимой безопасности. Системы, которая жизненно необходима всему мировому сообществу. В декабре прошлого года мы предложили заключить договор о гарантиях безопасности.
I'll just read it. So last December, we proposed a treaty on security guarantees. Russia called on the West to engage in honest dialogue, to seek sensible compromise solutions, and to take each other's interests into account. All was in vain. Yeah, because America doesn't want peace. They want a war. They want to build a stage to bring in a new world order. All right, and the Russians do too, NATO countries did not want to hear us, so in fact they had completely different plans, and as we saw, preparations were openly underway for another punitive operation in Donbass and in an invasion of our historic lands, including Crimea. So they believed that they were NATO, the European powers, planned to invade those areas under control by the Russians.
В открытую шла подготовка к очередной карательной операции на Донбассе, вторжению на наши исторические земли, включая Крым. В Киеве заявляли о возможности.
Remember, the beast can use any forces they want to actually, carry out their attacks. They can do it via Ukraine. They can do it proxies to attack whoever they want. It's like NATO is technically at war with Russia now. They're just doing it by proxy, meaning they're feeding weapons and intelligence to Ukrainian forces. Kiev has announced a possible acquisition of nuclear weapons. The NATO bloc began active military development of the territories adjacent to ours. And they had the biolabs too, that when it was reported, I believe they were going to use those weapons to cause some type of catastrophe in Russia. Russia has forces. Independent countries. United States, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union, started talking about its exceptionalism, and that's the key word right there. Word I just found out about today. It actually means something. American exceptionalism. You go look it up. This humiliated. Wait a minute. All right. So pay attention. That means something. Exceptionalism. American exceptionalism. Thus humiliating not only the whole world, but also its satellites, meaning its allies. All right. So that means that when that phrase is used, that word is used, it means something. All right. He said started talking about its exceptionalism, American exceptionalism. So I looked that up. We can let this play out first. It says, who have to pretend not to notice it and swallow it whole with obedience. So the point here is that his lesson is that the world, the European powers, had to be obedient to America, the whore, spoken about in Revelation 17 and 18. All right. But we are a different country. Russia is different. All right. Because it says that the horns or the beast, gave their power. We can just read it. Revelation 17, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, meaning their organization, NATO. That's the beast. All right. And who's heading the beast? The whore. It says the whore sits on top of the beast. All right. I think I have a, Here we go. That's the beast. All right. And America sits on the top of the beast. All right. That's symbolism for having, ultimate control or say so on certain matters. And it's evident because you sit on, it didn't say he was beside the beast and they were equal partners, even though they're supposed to technically be, equal. But, America's on top of the beast for a reason, not just because it looks good or it sounds good. And that's the position that America is in over the beast. And then you got Putin talking about American exceptionalism. And they had to sit and act like the United States of America, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union, started talking about its exceptionalism, thus humiliating not only the whole world, but also its allies, the satellites, who have to pretend not. So he basically trying to tell you other European powers, like, look up. And the rest of India, Pakistan, China, also, that are not technically their satellites, but considered the rest of the world, because satellites would be more like the European powers, who have to pretend not to notice it and swallow it whole with obedience. There you go. All right, exceptionalism. Where are we at? American exceptionalism. Make sure that you can see that. Nice and big. See that right there? This is why we say that America is Babylon. There's a lot of us didn't even know that this thing was even actually written down somewhere, or this is an ideology. All right. American exceptionalism is the idea that the United States is inherently different from other nations, meaning proud, whose look was more stout than his fellow. Daniel, Book of Daniel. Its proponents argue that the values, political system, and historical development of the United States are unique in human history, often with the implication that the country is both destined and entitled to play a distinct and positive role in the world and a demonic evil role in the world. They forgot that part. But there you go. This is where from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli come from. All right. There you go. That's American exceptionalism. And I'm sure this these things were all brought up by scientists and philosophers and racists. All right. And so basically what they're saying, they're better. Unique is, they should replace the word with unique with better. More proud, has more power. All right. That's exceptionalism that Putin is talking about. All right. But Russia is different. We will never give up our love for the motherland, Mother Russia, our faith and traditional values, our ancestral customs. All right.
Любви к родине, от веры и традиционных ценностей, от обычаев предков, от уважения ко всем народам и культурам. А на Западе эти тысячелетние ценности, судя по всему, решили отменить. Такая нравственная деградация стала основой циничных фальсификаций истории Второй мировой. Мы чтим всех воинов союзнических армий.
We honor all soldiers and allies, the Americans, the British, the French, the participants in the Renaissance and the Resistance. I thought I said Renaissance. It says the brave soldiers and partisans of China, all those who defeated Nazism and militarism.
Сегодня ополченцы Донбасса.
Dear comrades, today the rebels of Donbass, together with the Russian army, are fighting on their own soil.
Вместе с бойцами армии России сражаются на своей земле. Вы сражаетесь за родину.
You're fighting for the
за ее
homeland.
будущее, за то, чтобы никто не забыл уроков Второй мировой, чтобы в мире не было места палачам, карателям и нацистам.
Right, there we go. So there is no place in the world for executioners, punishers, and Nazis. And there's I'm hearing about in the Ukraine that the whole government is has a Nazi ideology. They're Nazis. All right. So that's why I believe Russia's attacked the Ukrainians, because of the Nazi threat, the biolabs, NATO expansion, and plans to destroy Russia, because they ultimately know, or they believe, that Gog and Magog in the Bible are the Russians, and they want to get an upper hand on Russia before the Russians get upper hand on them. All right. So war is inevitable, just when it's going to happen. All right. And this was Ishmaelite Arab site, English. It says I find it probably about Saudi government, because Saudi is that's a family, family of the Ishmaelites that gained power, I guess, through the British, I think, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so Revelation, I think 16 said, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Because the whore is America, and America is really controlling things behind the scenes. All right, and eventually, like that speech that Putin made, this American exceptionalism is pride, that they believe that America believes that they're better than everyone else. The simpler term for exceptionalism is a period of time or country or species believes that they have done exceptional things, or they are an exceptional people or country or species. All right. American exceptionalism. All right. They are entitled to play a distinct and positive role on the world stage. So this is an actual doctrine. So it's not something that we're making up about how proud America is. All right. This is an actual doctrine. Political scientist Seymour Martin Lisp traced the origins of American exceptionalism to the American Revolution. All right. You know where the hell it came from. All right, it's there. All right, so let this be burned in your mind. We didn't make it up. This is an actual ideology that they carry, that's in their heart. This is why they believe they can go around and be the police force of the world. Even when they're wrong, they're still right. That's how they move. They can leave a war and still left like they won. That's how much power America has. All right, because the homeland hasn't been touched yet. The soil of Americas have not been burnt yet with fire, but it will. Habakkuk 2:5. Also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. I mean, he goes out and polices the other countries, tells them you can't do this, you have to govern your government like this. You know, you have to be a democracy. They always promote this democracy thing. You live your life a certain way, you have equal rights to women, which that's demonic. Women ain't supposed to have equal rights. Who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth into him all nations, and heapeth into him all peoples. He does that by, importing people from other countries and by taking over their countries with his policies. All right. With their doctrine. All right. That's the proud man, the whore. And there we go. Often with the implication that the country, America, is both destined, according to plan, and entitled to play a distinct and positive role on the world stage. All right, so this is an American ideology. All right, this is Obadiah 1:3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. So you can pretty much get any scripture where it says pride and talking about Esau. All right. And link it to American exceptionalism. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cleft of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. All right. So that's the pride. That's the pride of Esau. All right. All right. Look up pride. We got Zadwan. Insolence. Rude or disrespectful behavior. Presumptuous. Arrogance. The quality of being arrogant. Having or revealing an exaggerated sense of one's own importance or abilities. American exceptionalism. There we go. All right. Now, America is linked to the European powers via the beast, NATO. All right, one and the same thing. It says Russia cuts off natural gas supply to Poland and Bulgaria. So some more news.
Now to Kyiv, where BBC News correspondent Joe Inwood is standing by. Joe, once again, it is good to see you again. Let us start with this sort of economic attack that Russia is taking with Poland and Bulgaria. As we just heard, they've refused to pay for their natural gas in rubles, and so Putin has decided to cut off their supplies. How is Poland and Bulgaria reacting?
In a word, they're saying this is blackmail, that Russia is using the economic leverage that it has because it supplies so many.
All right, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what America does. All right, if you stop being America's friend and become their enemy, they'll send bombs to destroy you. That's how America does. America destroyed Iraq, and now they're rebuilding it. They destroyed parts of Afghanistan. They destroyed Libya. This is what happens when you become their enemy. All right, you get cut off from certain economic privileges and agreements. Yes, America does it to other countries first, and two. That's what happens. I mean, Jack is so surprised. like this is business as usual. This is how you normally. This is how America does it. This is how Britain does it. This is how the different European powers do it. So Russia's doing the same thing, and it started with Poland and Bulgaria apparently. And they're acting surprised.
In a word, they're saying this is blackmail, that Russia is using the economic leverage that it has because it supplies so many raw materials, it supplies gas, it supplies oil, and it's using that economic leverage to achieve political aims. Now, of course, large amounts of Europe have really united behind the Ukrainian cause. They've not just criticized Russia, but they've also supported Ukraine in its war efforts. And obviously, they think that this is Russia's way of getting revenge. Now, country to that, other people might say that maybe Europe shouldn't have become so reliant on oil and gas from Russia.
Or maybe Europe shouldn't be supporting Ukraine. You know, see how that's the, let me go back, American exceptionalism. Often with the, and this is extended to the European powers also, often with the implication that the country is both designed and entitled to play a distinct and positive role in the world stage. So they're joining in. They gave their power to the beast. All right. Where we at? These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. All right. And America's a part of that beast. All right. Where they control the beast. All right. Because what you see, that support, that's coming from America. They're not doing it on their own free will. They're doing it because America says so. Or they don't want to piss America off. The whore, they don't want to piss the whore off. All right, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. All right. These have one NATO, all right, which is America's a part of NATO. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So whatever they do, they do with one mind. So better believe America is on the forefront. It's within that mind to supply Ukraine with, weapons and intelligence. Now, the first two countries, I believe these are the first two countries that aren't paying in rubles. I guess their bill. I was maybe that. I don't know if like everybody's bills do it at the same time, or certain countries are now paying in rubles and other countries aren't. I'm not sure.
And this is the inevitable consequence of that dependency.
Yeah, indeed. And I know Poland has been trying to decrease its reliance on Russian oil and gas for a while now. So speaking of Europe rallying around Ukraine, we learned yesterday that Germany will now send armored anti-aircraft vehicles to Ukraine. This is a change.
This is like stupid. Like, you seriously expect me to give you gas and oil, and you're sending my enemies weapons? Like, come on, we gotta grow up now. All right, America has always used economic leverage to control countries. This is not news
For Germany, which is sort of holding back. Can we talk about why Germany is choosing to do this now?
Yeah, the German government has been seen as one of the holdouts, one of the governments who are not supporting Ukraine quite as much as many other European nations. And this was because they've had a policy for many years of engaging with Russia, of trying to change Russia through economic means, through trade. And I think they've invested so much in that. It's one of the reasons that...
That's bullshit. He's a patsy. He's being told to say this. Germany ain't trying to change Russia. This is stupid. Seriously? Trying to change Russia?
Germany is so dependent on oil and gas because they thought that they could create change from within, a kind of change of consensus. And I think probably just there's been a critical mass of pressure on the Germans. It's become so evident that the rest of their allies, the rest of the NATO countries of Europe and of course countries in North America, just see Russia as beyond the pale now, that this policy that the Germans have of trying to engage and change through trade, well, that's not sustainable anymore. And so finally they've had to throw their lot all in with the European allies and with the Americans and supply heavy weaponry, the sort of weaponry that before they didn't want to give to the Ukrainians for fear of antagonizing Moscow.
So, speaking of that, yesterday was actually a pretty busy day when it came to diplomacy in regards to this war. The UN Secretary General sat down with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday. He is due to sit down with the Ukrainian President Zelensky tomorrow. Though we know, we talked about this yesterday, Joe, President Zelensky was not happy about the idea that Vladimir Putin would be the first one that he was meeting before sitting down with Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. And his thinking was that they needed to see the problem. They needed to see the place where this conflict was having a disastrous impact first, and then take those findings, those learnings, and put them to President Putin. Now, of course, he's done it the other way round. He's been to the place where the solution could be found before the problem. I think, however, President Zelensky, he's a pragmatic man. He's going to put that aside, and he will be trying to engage constructively. I think, really, though, the problem is this doesn't need to come. The change, the diplomatic consensus doesn't need to be found here. It needs to be found in Moscow. And I think yesterday we didn't get any of that. We saw a clear picture that there are two sides here with very, very different perspectives on where this conflict has come from and where it should be going.
Well, that last part is true. All right. Two different perspectives on where it came from, where it's going. All right. I think that's all I wanted to read. So, but pretty much the made a point that the Russians see the beast, which is NATO, EU, as a threat. All right, and they took preemptive actions to prevent that possible biological attack, which I heard about having biolabs in Ukraine. They heard something about NATO preparing to take parts of eastern Ukraine, where Russian citizens are, Donbass, Crimea. So they struck first. All right. So, I mean, the lesson there. Hope you're edified. Shalom.